You think you miss them, but you don't. And the reason this feels so hard is because your heart hasn't realized that yet. What you actually miss is the way you felt when they were there. The calm, the silence in your thoughts, the strange peace that made everything feel okay for a moment. Because when they were around, you weren't overthinking this much. You weren't carrying this heaviness. You felt lighter, softer, more like yourself. And now that they're gone, it feels like something inside you went with them. But here's the truth most people never understand. You're not missing a person. You're missing a feeling that you accidentally attached to them. And until you see that clearly, you'll keep going back to something that was never meant to stay. 1. The feeling was real, but you mistook it as them. What you felt was real. It wasn't something you imagined. It wasn't something small that your mind created just to fill a gap. It was deep. It touched your heart in a way that stayed, even after everything changed. And that's exactly why it still lives inside you today. Because real feelings don't disappear easily. They leave an imprint. They stay in your chest, in your memory, in quiet moments when everything slows down. But here's where the confusion begins. You didn't just feel something. You attached that feeling to a person. You gave it their name. You gave it their face. You started believing that everything you felt belonged to them. You thought the peace came from them. The calm came from them. The warmth in your chest was something they created and carried. And slowly, without even noticing, you started believing that without them, that feeling could not exist. But that's not true. They didn't own that feeling. They were not the source of it. They were only part of the moment. They were only present when your heart opened. They were only the situation, not the creator of what you felt. Think about it carefully. Two people can be in the same place, with the same person, and feel completely different things. Why? Because the feeling does not come from the outside. It comes from inside the one who feels it. Your heart responded. Your heart opened. Your heart allowed itself to feel something deep. That's where it came from. From your ability to feel, from your softness, from your depth, from the part of you that knows how to connect and experience something real. And now that they are gone, your mind is trying to go back. Not because you truly need them, but because you want that feeling again. Your mind keeps telling you, if they come back, I'll feel that way again. But what it doesn't understand is this. That feeling was never locked inside them. It was never something they carried away when they left. It was something that happened inside you, when the moment was right, when your heart was open, when you allowed yourself to feel without fear. So, what you lost is not the feeling itself. What you lost was the way you used to access it. And because your mind connects that access to them, it keeps pulling you back again and again, making you believe that you are missing them. But if you look deeper, you're not missing them. You're missing the way your heart felt when it was open, when it was soft, when it was alive in a way you didn't expect. And that part of you is still there. It was never taken. It's just waiting for you to understand where it truly came from. 2. Your mind turned a connection into your emotional identity. At the beginning, it felt simple. Just a connection. Just two people talking, sharing moments, feeling something that slowly grew without force. You didn't plan it. You didn't even notice when it started becoming important. But over time, something deeper began to happen inside you. Your mind didn't just enjoy the connection. It started building around it. Little by little, without asking you, it began attaching your emotions to that person. When they were present, you felt calm. When they spoke, your thoughts slowed down. When they gave attention, something inside you felt settled. And at first, it feels natural. It feels normal to feel good around someone. But then it goes further. Your mood starts depending on them. Your peace starts waiting for them. Your happiness starts reacting to what they do or don't do. If they reply, you feel okay. If they don't, something inside you feels heavy, and slowly, something dangerous begins to form. You stop being someone who feels emotions on their own, and you become someone whose emotions are controlled by a connection. You don't even realize it, because it feels like love. It feels like closeness. It feels like something meaningful. But deep inside, your identity is shifting. You're no longer just you. You are now you when they are there. And that becomes your emotional center. So, when they leave, it doesn't feel like you lost a person. It feels like you lost stability. It feels like your emotions don't know where to go anymore. Like your mind is searching for something it got used to depending on. Because your peace was no longer yours alone. It was connected to them. And now, that connection is gone. Your mind feels lost. It keeps going back to memories, trying to rebuild what it used to rely on. It keeps asking, why do I feel incomplete? But the truth is not that you are incomplete. The truth is, your mind learned to depend on something outside of you, and now it doesn't know how to stand on its own again. This is what happens when a connection turns into identity. You stop seeing them as part of your life, and you start seeing them as part of who you are. And that's why it hurts the way it does. Because it's not just about missing someone. It feels like losing a version of yourself, a version that only existed when they were there. But here is the truth most people avoid. You didn't lose yourself. You only placed yourself somewhere you were never meant to stay. Your emotions were never meant to be controlled by another person. Your peace was never meant to depend on someone else's presence. And now, even though it feels uncomfortable, even though it feels empty, you are being pulled back to yourself, back to a place where your feelings don't depend on someone staying, back to a place where your identity is not built on a connection. And yes, it feels unfamiliar right now. It feels quiet and even painful. But this is where your strength begins again, because the moment you take your emotional center back is the moment you stop losing yourself every time someone leaves. 3. What you felt was a glimpse of you, not something you needed from them. There's something very important you need to slow down and understand, because this is where everything begins to shift. What you felt with them, that deep calm, that soft happiness, that feeling of being complete for a moment. It did not come from them the way you think it did. It felt like it did. It felt like they were the reason your heart became lighter, like they were the reason your thoughts became quiet, like they were the reason you felt safe in a way you hadn't felt before. And because it felt so real, so strong, so different from anything else, you believed it had to come from them. But the truth is more subtle and more powerful. What you felt was not something they gave you. It was something they revealed inside you. They didn't create that peace. They didn't build that softness in your heart. They didn't place that calm within you. All of that already existed. It was already there, quiet, hidden, waiting. You just hadn't experienced it that clearly before. And when they came into your life, something inside you responded. Your heart opened, your guard lowered, your thoughts slowed down. And in that moment, you touched a version of yourself you didn't even know you had. A version that felt deeper, softer, more alive. And because they were present when that happened, you connected that version of yourself to them. You thought, this feeling exists because of them, but it doesn't. It exists because of you. Think about it this way. If the feeling truly belonged to them, then anyone around them would feel the same thing you felt. But they didn't, because it wasn't about them alone. It was about how your heart responded. It was about your depth, your sensitivity, your ability to feel something meaningful. And that means something very important. It means you were never dependent on them to feel that way. You were only experiencing a part of yourself through them. And now that they are gone, it feels like that part is gone too. It feels like the calm disappeared, like the softness faded, like that version of you no longer exists. But that's not true. It didn't disappear. It just went quiet again. Because the trigger is gone, but the source is still there, inside you, waiting. And this is where most people get stuck. They keep looking outside, trying to find someone else who will make them feel that way again. They keep searching for another person, another connection, another moment that will bring that feeling back, not realizing they're chasing something that was never outside to begin with. You don't need another person to unlock that feeling again. You need awareness. You need to understand yourself. You need to reconnect with your heart without attaching it to someone else. Because the moment you realize that what you felt was actually you, something changes. You stop feeling empty. You stop believing that something was taken from you. You stop thinking that you lost something rare and irreplaceable. Instead, you begin to see it differently. You begin to see that you experienced a glimpse of who you can be, a glimpse of how your heart can feel, a glimpse of a deeper emotional state that is already yours. And once you see it that way, you stop chasing people for feelings. You stop believing that someone else holds something you don't have. You stop placing your peace in someone else's hands, because now you understand what you felt was never something you needed from them. It was something that already belonged to you. And this time, you won't need to lose yourself in someone else, just to feel it again. For Allah didn't remove them. He removed what was quietly controlling you. There is a part of this journey that feels the heaviest, because it asks you to see your loss differently, not as something taken from you, but as something taken for you. And at first, that feels impossible to accept, because when something leaves your life that meant a lot to you, your first instinct is pain. You question it. You replay everything. You wonder why it had to end, why it couldn't stay, why something that felt so real had to be taken away. But what you don't always see in that moment is what was slowly happening beneath the surface. Because not everything that feels good is good for you in the long run. And not everything that touches your heart is meant to stay in your life forever. Sometimes, something can feel beautiful while quietly taking control of you. It can feel comforting while slowly becoming something you depend on. It can feel like peace while gently pulling your heart away from where it truly belongs. And that's the part most people miss, because control doesn't always look like pain. Sometimes it looks like attachment. Sometimes it looks like needing someone's presence just to feel okay. Sometimes it looks like your mood changing based on how they treat you. Sometimes it looks like your heart waiting instead of being at peace. And slowly, without realizing it, something that once felt pure begins to take a place in your life that it was never meant to hold. It begins to sit where only Allah should be. It begins to carry a weight it was never designed to carry. And when that happens, it doesn't matter how good it feels. It becomes dangerous for your heart, because anything you depend on too deeply has the power to break you when it leaves. And Allah knows this better than you do. He sees what you don't see. He knows where your heart is going, even when you don't realize it. He sees the attachment forming. He sees the dependency growing. He sees how your peace is slowly being tied to something temporary. And out of His mercy, Not his anger. He removes it. Not because it had no value, but because it was beginning to control you in a way that would hurt you more if it stayed. This is what makes it difficult to accept, because it didn't feel harmful. It felt meaningful. It felt real. It felt like something worth holding on to. But sometimes, what feels meaningful is only meant to be temporary. Sometimes, it comes into your life not to stay, but to teach, to reveal, to shift something inside you. And when that purpose is complete, it leaves. Not to break you, but to protect you. Not to empty your life, but to redirect your heart. And yes, it hurts, because your heart was attached, because you didn't see it as something temporary, because you believed it would stay. But the removal was not the loss. The control was the problem. And that's what was taken away. Allah didn't take them just to leave you empty. He took away what was slowly taking you away from yourself and from Him. And this is where your perspective begins to change. Because instead of asking, "Why was this taken from me?" you begin to ask, "What was this protecting me from?" And that question opens a different understanding. It helps you see that maybe, just maybe, what left your life was never meant to carry your heart that deeply. And now, even though it feels painful, even though it feels like something is missing, you are being given something greater. You are being given your heart back, a heart that is no longer controlled by someone's presence, a heart that is no longer dependent on something temporary, a heart that is being guided, slowly, back to something more stable, more real, more lasting. And one day, when you look back at this moment, you won't see it as something that was taken from you. You will see it as something that saved you before you lost yourself completely inside it. 5. You're not holding on to them. You're holding on to a perfected memory. There's a quiet truth that most people avoid, because accepting it changes everything. What you keep going back to, what your mind keeps replaying, what your heart keeps holding on to, is not the person as they truly were. It's a version of them, a version shaped by memory, softened by time, and perfected by emotion. Because the human mind does something very subtle when something ends. It doesn't store the past exactly as it happened. It edits it. It filters it. It keeps what felt good and slowly fades what didn't. So when you look back, you don't see the full reality. You see the highlights. You remember the moments when you felt calm, when you felt seen, when everything felt easy and right. You remember the way they spoke to you in certain moments, the way your heart felt lighter around them, the way your thoughts became quiet when they were present. And those memories feel powerful. They feel almost perfect. But what you don't see as clearly are the parts that didn't feel that way. The confusion you sometimes felt, the moments of silence that made you overthink, the uncertainty that sat quietly beneath the surface, the small things that didn't align, but you ignored because you were focused on how good it felt at times. Your mind doesn't hold on to those with the same strength, because it is trying to protect you. It is trying to hold on to what felt meaningful. But in doing that, it creates an illusion. It creates a version of the past that feels cleaner, smoother, more complete than it really was. And over time, that version becomes the one you believe. So when you say, "I miss them," what you're really missing is how it felt in those selected moments. Not the full experience, not the full reality, just the feeling that your mind has chosen to keep alive. And this is why it feels so hard to let go, because you're not just letting go of a person. You're letting go of a story your mind has built, a story where everything felt right, a story where the connection felt perfect, a story where nothing was missing. But that story is not the complete truth. It's a memory shaped by emotion, and the more you replay it, the more real it feels. The more you compare your present to it, the more empty your present feels. Because nothing can compete with something that has been perfected in your mind. And that's where the trap is. You begin chasing a feeling that never fully existed in the way you remember it. You begin believing that what you had was rare, unmatched, impossible to find again, not realizing you are comparing reality to a memory that has been edited over time. And no real moment can match something that has been cleaned of its flaws. This is why you feel stuck, because you're not trying to move on from a person. You're trying to move on from a feeling that your mind has turned into something flawless. But the moment you begin to see this clearly, something shifts inside you. You begin to question your own memories, not to deny them, but to understand them. You begin to see that what you're holding on to is not entirely real in the way it feels. You begin to realize that the connection had depth, but it also had gaps. It had warmth, but it also had uncertainty. It had meaning, but it also had limits. And once you allow yourself to see both sides, the grip begins to loosen. Not instantly, not completely, but slowly, because now you're no longer holding on to an illusion of perfection. You're seeing it as it was, a real experience, with both beauty and imperfection. And that makes it easier to release, because you're not losing something perfect. You're letting go of something that felt meaningful, but was never meant to stay the way your mind wants it to. And in that realization, you begin to come back to the present, not comparing it, not rejecting it, but seeing it for what it is, real, imperfect, and still full of possibility. Because once you stop holding on to a perfected memory, you finally give yourself the chance to experience something real again, without the weight of the past shaping everything you feel. 6. The peace you felt was never theirs. It was always meant to lead you back to Allah. There comes a moment, after all the thinking, after all the remembering, after all the quiet pain, when something inside you begins to soften. Not because everything is fixed, not because the memories are gone, but because you start seeing things differently. You begin to understand something deeper than before. The peace you felt, the calm that touched your heart, the stillness that made everything feel okay for a moment. It never truly belonged to them. It only appeared through them. And that is a very important difference. Because when you believe it belonged to them, you feel like it left with them. But when you understand it came through them, you realize it was never tied to their presence. It was pointing you somewhere. It was guiding you, without you even noticing. Because that kind of peace, the one that quiets your thoughts, the one that makes your heart feel settled, the one that gives you a sense of completeness, does not come from people in a lasting way. People can trigger it, they can reflect it, they can open the door to it, but they cannot hold it for you. They cannot protect it. They cannot guarantee it will stay. And that's why it doesn't last when it is tied to them, because they are human. They change, they leave. They are not meant to carry something so deep. That kind of peace comes from Allah. It is something your heart recognizes when it is close to Him, even if you don't fully understand it at the time. And sometimes, Allah allows you to feel a small glimpse of that peace through a person, not so you depend on the person, but so you recognize the feeling, so you know what your heart is capable of experiencing, so you know what it feels like to be calm, to be at ease, to feel something pure and grounding. But then, when your heart starts attaching that feeling to the person instead of the source, it is gently taken away, not to hurt you, but to correct your direction, because if it stayed, you would continue believing that your peace lives in someone else. You would continue searching for them instead of searching for the one who created that feeling in the first place. And that is not where your heart is meant to rest. Your heart is not meant to be held by something temporary. It is not meant to depend on something that can disappear. It is meant to be anchored in something constant, something that does not change, something that does not leave. And that is Allah. This is why, even though it hurts, even though it feels like something was taken from you, there is a hidden mercy in it, because you are being guided back to a place where your peace does not come and go based on someone's presence, back to a place where your calm is not controlled by someone's actions, back to a place where your heart feels stable, even when everything around you changes. And this is not something that happens instantly. It takes time. It takes reflection. It takes moments of silence where you begin to understand what you were truly attached to. But slowly, something begins to shift. You stop looking for them in your thoughts. You stop expecting the same feeling from the same place. You stop believing that your peace is something you have to chase through people. And instead, you begin to turn inward. You begin to turn upward. You begin to reconnect with Allah in a way that is deeper, quieter, more real. And in that connection, something beautiful happens. The peace returns, but this time, it is not fragile. It is not dependent. It is not temporary. It feels different, stronger, cleaner, more stable, because now it is coming from where it was always meant to come from. And in that moment, everything becomes clear. You don't say, "I miss them" anymore, because you finally understand what you were truly searching for was never them. It was the peace your heart touched, and the path it was quietly trying to lead you toward. And maybe this is the moment where everything becomes quiet again. But this time, not in a painful way, in a clear way, because now you see it. You see why it stayed in your mind for so long. You see why it felt so hard to let go. You see why your heart kept going back, even when you tried to move forward. It was never about them the way you thought. It was about what you felt. It was about what was opened inside you. It was about what your heart experienced and didn't know how to understand. And now you do. Now you see that nothing was taken from you. Nothing inside you was lost. What you felt is still within you. That softness, that depth, that ability to feel something real, it's still yours. It never belonged to someone else. It was always a part of you. And more than that, it was guiding you, not toward a person, but toward something higher, toward a peace that doesn't come and go, toward a connection that doesn't break, toward Allah. So maybe, instead of asking, "Why did it end?" you begin asking, "What was it trying to show me?" And when you ask that honestly, without running from the answer, something inside you settles, because you stop chasing what left and you start understanding what remains. And what remains is more powerful than what you lost. It's your heart returning to its place. It's your peace no longer depending on someone staying. It's your understanding becoming deeper than your emotions. And slowly, you don't feel the need to go back anymore. Not because you forgot, not because it didn't matter, but because you've outgrown the way you used to see it. And now, you don't say, "I miss them," with the same weight, because now you know you were never missing them. You were remembering a feeling, and now you've found where that feeling truly belongs.